Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in about 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in about 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in a little less than 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in 1 minute. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully you had a wonderful summer weekend and you're ready for some learning here today. So want to talk today about the post-trust era. So what is the post-trust era? This is a fantastic book. If you have not read this book, I think it's very interesting to read, but also very helpful to read, because Maslansky is making the case that we live in a world of distrust. Would you agree or disagree? Go ahead and say yay if you'd agree, or nay if you disagree. So do we live in a where everybody trusts each other, everybody trusts the news, everybody trusts what what they read, everybody trusts what they see on TV, or are we in a world of distrust? Yeah, we're in a world of distrust. So and it's exacerbated by the fact that they have access. Everybody now has access to ungodly amounts of information that they didn't have 10, 20 years ago. So people had to believe us 10, 20 years ago. They had to believe experts 10, 20 years ago because they had no other place to get information. But they have unlimited places to get information now. And really, if you want proof that the Earth is flat, can you find it? If you want proof that the United States never landed on the moon, can you find it? If you want proof that the world is round, can you find it? If you want proof that man did land on the moon, can you find it? You can find out, completely and kind of wackadoodle ideas, you can actually find proof to back it up. So we live in an age of mistrust, and people will find information that will back up whatever they want to believe. Now, the reason that this is a problem is because when many of us first got into business, we were working with the greatest generation. Now, what did the greatest generation think about authority? What did the greatest generation think about authority? Did they trust it or did they not trust it? Trust or not trust? Yes, they respected it. They respected authority. So when I showed up in a suit, when I looked presentable and professional, when I told them this is the thing to do, they believed me and we moved forward because they had first of all, they respected authority, and me in a suit as a quote unquote expert in investments, they trusted me, and they really had no other place to go get that information. So when we're working with the greatest generation, we could use the techniques forwarded by the likes of Zig Ziglar. So Zig Ziglar is an awesome sales trainer for the greatest generation. And there are many, 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 many great sales trainers for the greatest generation. But the kind of things that Zig Ziglar and all of his cohorts, these great sales trainers, do they work for boomers? Or do they actually hurt us with boomers? If we try to come in there with a big smile on our face and we do all this rapport building and, hey, I'm like you, and blah, 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 you know, this excited energy that Zig Ziglar and all the other ones told us that we should have, does that work for baby boomers? No, it does not. In fact, it goes the other direction. Why? Why does it not work for baby boomers? Why does it not work for baby boomers? When were the baby boomers? Well, first of all, when were baby boomers? What was happening during their formative? What was their formative happening during their formative times? We had all these Vietnam protests. We had Watergate. We had all these things. The baby boomers are raised during their formative years with don't trust authority, and in fact, they have a mentality that what? You tell them have a nice day, they'll say, don't you tell me what to do, right? And every generation after the boomers, have they become more trustful or even more distrustful? Every generation after baby boomers, becoming more and more distrustful, again, simply because of everything that's happened, because of all the information that's available that people can find out whatever point of view and whatever clan they want to belong to, they can find that clan. So people do not trust anything we have to say anymore. We live in this post-trust generation. See, today we have too much information. Too much information. If I type into Google annuities, what am I going to find? Just the word annuities. What am I going to find on those pages? I'm going to find probably 2/3 of them are going to tell me how annuities are terrible things. Maybe 1/3 might be promoting annuities, but 2/3 are going to be saying how bad it is. If I do money management fees, I'm going to have basically the whole page telling me that money management fees are bad things. So see, we have too much information. And does information make you wiser? Does information make you wiser? See, the people we're working with, they have a ton of information. Do they know how to analyze it? Do they know how to figure out what is truth and what is not truth? Do they know what to do with that information? They don't. But here's the sad thing. By having all that information, they think they're what? What does everybody on your block think they are? When it comes to investments, what does everybody on your block think? Maybe not everybody. What do 90% of the people on your block think? Their investment what? Neophytes or experts? What do people think? Everybody thinks they're an expert. Everybody thinks they're an expert. See, they've seen behind the curtain. They've seen behind the curtain. Have they read in newspapers, seen on the news where financial advisors and investment advisors have screwed over their clients, have absconded with their clients' funds? Have they seen companies take advantage of people? Have they seen scams? See, they've seen behind the curtain. We don't want to be told what to think. We've just talked about that as their life experience, their formative years, they were exposed to things that made them not want to believe in authority. They do not want to be told what to think. And in today's world, is that even worse than the 60s or better than the 60s? If you try to tell somebody how to think today, how far are you going to get? I mean, we could do that with the greatest generation. We can't do that with boomers or any younger generation. So what Maslansky and he illustrates in the book, The Post-Trust Era, is that the most credible and effective sales pitches today are not sales pitches at all. They give information, not hype. They put control in the hands of the consumer. Guys, what is this a definition of? What is this? This is a quote out of his book. What is this a definition of? The most credible and effective sales pitches today are often not sales pitches at all. Instead, they give information, not hype, and put control in the hands of the consumer. What is this a complete definition of? Have you been exposed to any system that does not encourage you to do a sales pitch? In fact, it's not a sales pitch at all, but instead, you give the client information and you don't tell them, you don't sell them, You don't preach at them. You don't teach at them, but you can put control in the hands of the consumer. Is there a system that's been put into your hands that does those things, guys? What is the whole 5Q system? Do we ever do a sales pitch in the 5Q system, yay or nay? Do we ever do a sales pitch in the 5Q system? And I've talked about this many times before. When guys come onto the system, I'll get a phone call and they'll be confused and say, I don't really like this system. It's making me extremely uncomfortable. I'm like, well, tell me. Share with me. I want to help you get more comfortable with the system. What's the problem? Well, they want to move their money before I've even shown them what I recommend. But guys, if people want to move all their money to you before you even make a recommendation, are we giving sales pitches? Are we giving sales pitches? No. And do we ever tell the client what to think? Do we ever sell them on what to think? Do we ever preach at them on what to think? Do we ever try to teach them what to think? Or do we simply ask questions and let them learn for themselves? We ask open-ended questions and they let them learn for themselves. See, the secret in today's world to closing a sale is not closing the sale. Do I have any closing? Guys, I couldn't close myself out of I couldn't close the door, let alone a sale. I can never ask for the business. Is there any place in our system where we ever ask for the business? Or do we always say, okay, we've covered a lot today. I'm sure you've got questions. Let's do this. Let's go to the front desk. We'll make some appointment for a week out. That'll give you time to come with some great questions for me. We'll get back together and we'll move forward at your pace. Wow, that's a great closing of the sale, right? Now, what do I wait for? I wait for them to ask to move the money. I never ask it. They have to ask me. They have to chase me. See, that's what this whole, so even in the post-trust era book, this was written just about 5, 6, 7 years ago, but I was doing that in 1997, even before. And if it works for baby boomers, how much better do you think it works for the greatest generation? Obviously, it works fantastic. But it works fantastic for the baby boomer generation, Gen Z, Gen X, and everybody else as well. Nobody wants to be sold. So 7 things that have changed in the post-trust era. Number 1, everyone has their own version of the truth now. Facts no longer sell. Can we agree with that? Your truth is not what matters to everyone else. As we said, there are people who believe the earth is flat. We have people who believe that the United States never landed on the moon. Our truth is not what matters to everyone else. We work in an industry that changes the way you look at the world, but not the way they look at it. So yes, we have all sorts of information. We have all sorts of experience. We have all sorts of powerful tools at our fingertips that help us look at the world the way we look at it. The people we're sitting down with do not have those tools. They do not have that experience. So we can talk till we're blue in the face. We can tell, preach, and teach, but they're not going to believe us. The Fifth Amendment is dead. Silence is an admission of guilt. So what that he's talking about there is, if somebody challenges you, can you let it stand? If somebody calls you a liar, can you let it stand? If somebody says what you're saying is not true, can you let it stand? If somebody says you've got something wrong, can you let it stand? No, you cannot. You can't just blow over it. Now, we're not going to actually attack them back, but what do we do when somebody says disagrees with us, gives us an objection, tells us what we're saying is wrong? What do we do? What's the first thing that comes out of my mouth? What word comes out of my mouth when somebody disagrees with me? Somebody tells me that what I'm saying isn't the truth. Somebody says that what I am saying is wrong. What's the first thing that comes out of my mouth? What's the word? The word is absolutely. I'm going to agree with them. Because do they think that I'm going to agree with them, or do they think that I'm going to fight with them? And if they think I'm going to fight with them, what happens to their fight response? It goes up. That means what happens to their pulse rate? It goes up. What happens to their blood pressure? It goes up. What happens to their desire to attack me? It goes up. What happens to their listening? It goes down. So and in fact, all those things are also happening to me when somebody attacks me. So I have to remove that fight from me, so I can remove that fight physicality from them as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, absolutely, you're absolutely 100, not 100, 1,000% right. And here's why what you said is right. And I'm going to tell them why they're right. What happens to their fight flight when I do that? Does it go up or does it go down? It just disappears. So but I'm not going to just let what they said stand. I'm going to get on their side, tell them why the way they're looking at the world is right. But then I'm going to start to ask questions where they realize, oh, wait, Mike isn't wrong. He's actually right. Now, they're never going to actually think Mike is right. I'm going to put enough real estate behind where they give me that objection and me agreeing with them, put enough real estate there so they never have to admit that they're wrong. Instead, they'll start to come to my way of thinking because they think it was their idea in the first place. You can only tell one story. Tell more and you'll get caught. Basically, what he's saying is that the more stories you tell, the more different ways that you explain something, the more likely you're going to get yourself tangled into a big knot. So don't overcomplicate things. Keep the stories simple and stick to the one story. You are there. Understand that you are the least credible source of your information. When you say, trust me, they're going to think the exact opposite. They do not believe you. So, for example, when we're using Morningstar, do I tell them they should believe Morningstar? Or who tells them they should believe Morningstar? Somebody. Who tells them they should believe Morningstar and the information that we present them in Morningstar? Who tells them that? I'm going to answer. Who tells them that they should believe Morningstar? They tell themselves. Right, they tell themselves. I asked them, should we believe in third party? No. If you were looking for cars, do you go to the Ford website? No. You go to what? Consumer Reports. If you're looking for a TV, do you go to the Sony website? No. You go to Consumer Reports. You go to a third party who has no bone to pick, has no vested interest. All they're going to give you is information. I have them understand that, which gets them to buy into Morningstar. Because if I just tell them, man, you're taking way more risk. You are taking way more risk than the return you're getting. Are they going to believe me? No. If I say, hey, your manager tenure is way too low, they're going to believe me? No. If I say, hey, you're paying way too many fees, and the fees that you've been told you're paying are much higher, much lower than they actually are. Because what he said, that 1% that he said, that does not include turnover. That does not include taxes. That doesn't include all sorts of other things. They don't believe that. They have to see it from a third-party resource because they don't believe me. I'm their least credible source of information. And why am I the least credible source of information? Because if they believe me, that means what? If they believe me, that means they would move their money to me and I would get paid for that. So why would they believe me when I have a vested interest in them believing me? They will not. They will not. Show and tell, but mostly show. Why do I show them the risk-reward scatter plot? Because that's hard to deny. They see all those dots correlate to their current investments, and that cannot be denied. Why do I hand them a thick 80-page 21-point checklist? These are things that they're seeing for themselves work the way that we say they're going to work. And institutions must stand for something more than profit. So the institution we're worried about is you. How do you demonstrate that you stand, your institution, your financial planning firm, your company that you run stands for more than something that's profits? How do you do that? How do you prove that? How does the system allow you to demonstrate to them that you're in it for more than just profits? What do we spend the first 40 minutes doing at a 21-point checklist? Talking about the non-financial. See, Maslowski found that in the financial industry, most effective advisors rarely talk about products. For the first 40 minutes, do we talk about a single product? In fact, for the first hour and a half, 2 hours of the 21-point checklist, do we ever talk about a product that we represent? Do we ever talk about a product that we want them to buy? Do we ever talk about a product that we recommend that they move to? No. So for the first meeting, for the second meeting, we don't talk about products. We have them have a clear picture of the products that their guy gave them, but we give them no glimpse of what we're recommending. See, the best advisors don't talk about equity. They don't talk about investments. They don't talk about annuities. They focus on trust. And isn't that what we do at the first meeting? Isn't that what we do at the second meeting? We focus on trust. We tell, at the beginning of that meeting, we even say what? Just so we're clear, this meeting is not about what I'm recommending, because I haven't even looked at what I recommend for you, because I don't know what you like and what you don't like about your current situation. So my job today is to make sure you fully understand your current situation. And your job is to tell me of your current, once you understand your current situation, what is that you like and what is that don't you like? So the things you like, I'm not going to bother trying to show you something better because you already like that. I'm only going to concentrate on the things that you don't like, and then we'll find things that you'll like better. So I'm not going to recommend things. If I recommend things, I'm assuming what you like and don't like. And what does assume mean? What is this? So I walked through that at the beginning of the 21-point checklist, right? So they realize I'm not going to sell them anything. I'm just going to have them get a clear picture of that now, and they can tell me what they like and don't like, and only then, only after that, will I start to recommend products. Is that focusing on trust? Also, we keep a balanced view. Do I ever say a product is bad? Remember, we've talked about the template. For every single thing in the 21-point checklist, what do we talk about? We talk about the good things and the bad things. When we talk about a power of attorney, I talk about what? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? We talk about it's a good thing, and I compliment them on having one. I say, wow, that's awesome that you have one. You're way ahead of the curve. You're terrific. And then I go into, the only concern I have is it's not going to work with Social Security. Right? We start out with good, and then we say, but you have a problem. Oh, it's great. It's fantastic that you're diversified and have 15 different funds. Oh, wait. The problem is not that you have 15 different funds, is that all 15 funds are what? Acting as if they're the same fund, so you have no diversity. The very reason you wanted 50 funds or diversity, kudos to you. But the fact is, where your advisor puts you doesn't give you diversity. So what we do is we always give a balanced point of view. Do we ever say anything's horrible? Or in fact, do we ever utter a bad word about their investment? Do we ever utter a bad syllable about their advisor? Do we ever utter a sound of negativity about their current situation? Do we ever? Yay or nay? I need to see this. Yay or nay? Y or N? Y or N? Y or N? Do we ever utter a squeak of negativity about their current situation, whether it's their advisor or their current situation? Do we? Yeah or nay? I want to see some yeas or nays. Just Y or N, Y or N, Y or N. Guys, let's see if you're awake today.
Mike,
No,
do you have
not.
your...
Yeah, I have.
I'm seeing a bunch of yes, and I'm seeing a lot of no's right now, so they're all responding.
It wasn't drifting down. You know what? My little question thing wasn't drifting down. Thanks for bringing that to my attention, Allie.
No problem.
So yeah, nay, we don't. Thank you. That helps a lot. I thought I was talking to myself in a cave here. So yeah, so we always give them a balanced point of view, don't we? And do we ever overpromise? Do we ever overpromise? And I've talked about this before with equities, with your money manager, with stocks, with ETFs. What's the only 3 promises that you should give somebody with those things? Should you ever say, well, my money manager uses algorithms. He's going to give you maybe not the highest rate of return, he's going to protect you on the downside, blah, blah, blah. Do we ever say crap like that? Because can that be guaranteed? Would you bet your house on the fact that your money manager, when he says, well, we may not get you all the best rate of return, but we'll protect you on the downside, would you bet your house on that? I don't care how much I trust that advisor. That's not something he can guarantee. Did we see during 2008 money market funds, and funds that were marketed as the most conservative of all funds? Did we see them implode in 2008? Yes, we did. So what are the only 3 promises I make with my money management? I say, listen, this money manager is very, very good at what he does. It's one of the best out there. But when it comes to equities, here's the thing. There's only 3 things I can promise you. When the market goes up, your funds are going to go up. When the market goes down, your funds are going to go down. But we know that over time, if we truly believe in the growth of the United States over time and its economy, then we know over time the market's always going to go up. Do I ever try to tell them my money manager is the best money manager out there? Do I ever do that? No. Because unless I will bet my house on it, I'm not going to promise. But would I bet my house on the fact that, hey, when the market goes up, my money manager is going to go up? Will I bet my house on that? Sure, I would. When the market goes down, my money manager is going to go down. I'll bet my house on that too. Will I bet my house on the fact that, hey, over time, the economy will grow? Yes, I would bet my house on that too. But I'm not going to bet my house on the fact that some money manager or some product is going to be better than everything else out there. And besides that, they're not going to believe my promise anyways. So don't overpromise, because they're not going to believe your promise. You get nothing out of that. The other thing is, this will guarantee your money. You do not want to use this has changed. Guarantee used to be a fantastic word to use. Is guaranteed any longer a fantastic word to use, or has it been worn completely out? It has been worn out. Worn out. So what instead you want to say, you want to protect a portion of my assets, of your assets. Protect a portion of assets. That's the kind of language you're going to use. Not this will guarantee your money. You're going to say, let's protect a portion of your assets. See, the best way to connect with, another point he makes in the book is that the best way to connect with customers is admit fallibility. Do we do that with a 21-point checklist? Hey, Allie, could you help Ben on the side find where the questions, some of those things are, or maybe after the call? So the other thing that in the book, Post-Trust Error, what he says is that we need to admit fallibility. So what do I tell you is one of the biggest tools that we have with 5Q? It's the apology. It's falling on the sword. So when we're presenting all the non-financial things, am I saying, I really, I'm a financial advisor that does this. I know a lot of financial advisors don't do this, but I do this because I think it's extremely important. And I think doing a thorough job is covering these things. If I'm such a great advisor because I do cover these, is that how I present them? Or do I say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I have to cover another one of these things. It's boring. It's dry. It's putsy. It's talking about things we don't want to talk about. And I apologize. I mean, we just already spent time talking about the survivor's guide and the power of attorney. Now we're talking about quality of life directive. And you're probably wondering, why is Mike talking about this? And I apologize. Sometimes I wonder why I'm talking about this, because do I get paid for doing this? Is there some sort of fee I get from the hospital to make sure that you have this filled out? No. So, but can I share with you why I do it? What's the biggest expense that you get? You're going to spend 40 years to a fantastic type of saving, and it can all be unwound in a year. Because what's the biggest expense that we come across in retirement? Healthcare, right? So if I don't have this taken care of, so that it follows your desires instead of the hospitals, if you rely on the hospitals, those attorneys there, are they worried about you, or are they worried about the profitability of the hospital? Yeah, they're worried about the profitability. So I apologize to cover these things, but if I don't cover the thing that can unwind 40 years of your hard work and savings, what kind of an advisor would I be? A good one or a bad one? Right, a bad one. What if I said, well, it's not my problem. It's the hospital. It's between you and it. It's not my. Would that be a good advisor or a bad advisor if I did that? If I said, well, I don't get paid to do this, so why should I cover it? What kind of advisor would I be? Yeah, bad advisor. I know we're covering the icky, putsy stuff. I'm sorry, but why would I cover this? And they'll explain. Yeah, so thank you for understanding. So am I admitting fallibility there? Am I apologizing there? Who's coming to my aid? Do they believe me then why I'm covering those things? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So the language of trust also validates their objections. Do I teach you to validate their objections? I just talked about this here 10 minutes ago. When somebody says something I don't like, the first thing out of my mouth is absolutely, and that's to prevent me from putting my foot in my mouth and arguing with them. Every objection, guys, have you ever heard an unvalid objection? Have you ever heard of an unvalid objection? No, because the way they're viewing the world isn't valid. The way that client, now the way they're viewing the world might be skewed, but in their mind, is it valid? Yes, it is. So I have to first overcome that fight, flight, and validate their objection. I don't overcome them I validate the objection, tell them why the way they view the world is right, and then slowly ask them open-ended questions so they can overcome the objections themselves. Because does anybody want to admit that they're wrong? No. So I'm never going to try to teach somebody, preach at somebody, tell or tell somebody that what I'm saying is right and what they're saying is wrong. There's only one person they believe 100% of the time, and who's that? Who's the only person people believe 100% of the time? That's right. That's right. You're all getting it. Themselves. So I have to ask open-ended questions so they overcome the objection themselves. Oh, but we talked about this here a few weeks ago. What's the best way to overcome an objection? Let's see if you got your thinking caps on or your memory caps on. That's right, Gigi. So what is the best way to overcome an objection? See if you can remember this. Well, you avoid it. How do you avoid it, Tom? Yep, Nick, you never get to. Why do you never get one? What's the best way to overcome an objection? Dale says covered before. You're getting so close, Dale. What's the best way to overcome an objection? Guys, if you do the scripts the way I've laid them out, we have 100,000 conversations between advisors and clients, been recorded. When you have the conversation, the way I lay them out, do you get objections? Remember when we were going through each, we went through all 21 scripts twice over 2 years. Here, and we stopped that about 6 months ago. When we went over them, I always asked, is Jeff just being nice to me? Is Jeff just giving me the answers I want? Or would every single person that you asked that to answer the exact same way that Jeff answered? And you all said what? No, they would answer the exact same way that Jeff answered. And if they answer the same way Jeff answered, will you ever get an objection? No. So that's why I've been harping the last 2 months. Use the summer months to learn the 21-point checklist scripts because you will never get objections, which means you don't have to learn or get the high-level skills of overcoming objections. Your goal with a skeptic is to have a dialogue and be personal, plain spoken, positive, plausible. And guys, in the scripts, do I use highfalutin language? In fact, when I have to use highfalutin language, like correlation, what do I say about that word? What do I say about that word when I have to use, and I have to use that correlation because that's what, as a word, because that's what Morningstar calls it. So I have to use that word. But when I use it, what do I say? Do I try to pretend I'm really smart that I know what correlation is and they don't? Or do I say, I don't know why they use stupid words like correlation. Here, let me explain why they do that. But in reality, all we're talking about is what? Diversification or not having all your eggs where? Yeah, in one basket, that's right. So I don't know why, well, here's why they say correlate, and I go through the negative, positive correlate, so they don't understand that. But do I try to lord the fact that I know more than them, that I know bigger words than them, that I know financial language over them? No, I apologize to say that highfalutin, that overly complicated language, I apologize for the language. I use personal, plain spoken, positive, plausible. And we haven't talked about this for a while, but there was a study done. Guys, we've seen this here in the last year. When somebody is sued, how much money can be on the line? How much money can be on the line when somebody is sued in court? A little, or we're talking about tens of millions of dollars. So when there's tens of millions of dollars on the line, do people get good or bad attorneys? They get the best attorneys that money can buy. So there's been a lot of studies done on juries and what gets juries to agree with the attorney. What gets juries to agree with your point of view? So for the longest time, what attorneys thought was, and again, attorneys are, when you're a hammer, the world's a nail, right? So attorneys all thought, well, what people are looking for is qualifications. So if I go up there and the guy has a doctorate from MIT and a doctorate from Stanford and a doctorate from blah blah blah, and he was he was the tech expert for Google, that's going to make them believe him. Is that what they found makes people believe? Nope. What they found was what? The person who spoke in the language of the jury is the person that they believed. So we've all heard the old, the story plot of the old country, of the country attorney. that goes and beats the pants off of the fancy schmancy New York attorney? Because the country attorney, the country lawyer, what? Talks in the language of the jury. And it ends up that is 1,000% true. So with the script of the 21-point checklist, am I talking in personal, plain-spoken, positive, and plausible language? Do I talk about cable TV when we talk about risk reward? Do I talk about pies when we're talking about beneficiaries? We talk in what? Easy to understand, plain spoken language. You think like a wise man, but communicate in the language of the people. If I can't understand, here, the way they look at it is, if I can't understand you, if I don't know what you're talking about, that's not my fault. That's your fault. You're a jerk. Isn't that how baby boomers think? If I'm confused, I blame you. And guys, when we find our clients are confused, if we're doing something and we find that our client's confused because they give you that deer in the headlights look, or they say, I don't know, or whatever, when they do that, what do I teach you to do? What should be the first phrase out of your mouth when you know the client is confused? What's the first phrase out of your mouth when you know the client's confused? Very good, Nick. I'm sorry. That's my fault. How could you possibly know that? What silly me for asking a question like that. There's no way anybody would know that, the way I asked that question. I apologize. That was a stupid thing for me to ask. What I was trying to get to, and maybe I can get my ducks in a row here and get, guys, what am I doing that? First of all, I'm showing I'm fallible, and also I'm saying that what? It's not your fault. Because if they think it's their fault, how much more defensive are they going to get? More and more and more defensive. I don't want them to do that. So I never let them feel like confused. I blame myself because they're going to blame me, so I might as well beat them to the punch. If I have to work hard to understand your message, I'm not going to listen anymore. Why do I talk about things that you know? Why do I talk about dividing a pie when I talk about beneficiaries? Why do I talk about cable TV when I talk about risk reward? Do people understand if there's three people how you divide a pie to make sure each person gets it equally? Do people understand that if I'm getting cable TV for free, why would I want 100 channels for free? Why would I want to pay for 50 channels? Do they understand it? These are things that they understand. And when they understand it, guys, what is more popular, Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune? I tell you what, our family doesn't watch it like it. Our family, when one of them comes on, will watch it, and when the other one comes on, we turn it off. Which one will we watch? And which one will we not watch? One makes me feel smart. One makes me feel stupid. Which one am I going to watch? I watch Wheel of Fortune because I can actually what? I have a shot at answering those questions. Jeopardy, holy crap, makes me feel more and more stupid as the show goes on. So people want things that they understand, that they can come up with their own answer. Plain spoken guidelines, people don't know what you think they know, no matter how intelligent they are. I don't care if the guy's a rocket scientist at MIT or in Houston. Do I assume they know anything about investments or about manager tenure or about risk reward scatter plots? Do I assume that they know anything? No. I walk through it. Simple does not always mean short. Make sure they're clear. And guys, some of the things that we do are simple, but some of the things that we do are they longer scripts. Yes. Why are they longer scripts? The longer scripts, and one of the examples of that is the titling is a long script. The titling is a long script. Why? Because there's 3 or 4 objections they can give me, and I don't want to give it to me, so I have to. The script is designed to remove any possible objection they could possibly give me. So it's longer. So even though it's the point we're trying to make it simple, the script is not short because I know that even with that simple explanation, they could give me objections that I don't want. So it's a longer script. But that way it's clear no matter how long it takes. And we're always positive. Behavioral finance research has shown that fear of making the wrong choice is a key driver of inertia in investors. Do I ever push them and allow them to make a decision when they're afraid of making the wrong choice? Do I ever do that? No. I'm plausible. Do we ever oversell anything? In fact, do we sell anything at all? We never, ever, ever sell. Are we ever extreme? No. Do we find room for other answers? Guys, think about the FIA presentation. Do I ever sell an FIA to them or the Warren Buffett strategy to them? No. Am I extreme? Do I tell them they're going to make all sorts of money and their money has no risk whatsoever and it has great liquidity? Do I make any of those claims? No. I tell them, hey, the return isn't great. Hey, it does have liquidity problems. Hey, there are fees. Do I ever deny those things? No. And do I find room for other answers? Say, hey, there's really three things you can do with money. You can put it in the market, you can put it someplace else, you can do the Warren Buffett strategy. Do I have claim that there's only one answer, or do I always say, hey, here's the things you can do. Why don't you decide what's best for you? Do I acknowledge flaws everyone believes to exist? Do I acknowledge the flaws in an annuity that there's fees involved with an annuity? Do I acknowledge that there's liquidity problems with an annuity? Do I acknowledge that there's return problems with an annuity? Yes, I acknowledge all of those things, don't I? I walk the client through where all of those things are covered. Well, another example is the titling script where I do all of those things. Be personal, make it relevant to them. All of my stories are things that I put them in the story, right? Make it tangible. Is how you split a pie equally between three people, is that tangible? Is the cable TV story tangible to them? Are they human stories? Yes. Make it yourself feel real by speaking like a friend versus a pedagogue. You're not the expert. You're having a beer with them. You are not the expert. You are having a beer with them. Do you get that? So guys, these are all things that his study has shown, but we've been doing them since 1997. 1997, and we've got them dialed in perfectly. This is just showing you what we're doing is the right way to do it. Don't tell, sell, preach, or teach. And use just enough words. We could actually have a 28-point checklist. Why don't I do a 28-point checklist? Because there's no need. If I can get 100% of people to move their money in 21, that's what I'm going to do. What we found is if you only do 16, then you'll start to have a fall off, not a big fall off, but a fall off in your success rate. We found that more than 21 is unnecessary. Less than 21, you start to lose people. So 21 is the hot spot that we know based on almost a quarter of a century of us using the same scripts that work just as good today as they did 25 years ago. We know that that is the right number of items to bring up to a person to have them move all their money to it. So we don't have 20 point checklists. I have those things in a folder so that if ever one of the other 21 things fall off, we always have a substitute for it. We have not had to do that. So when we're talking about things, he gives examples in the book. We manage market risk is a bad thing to say. A better thing to say is we make sure you can share in the gains while reducing your downside risk. Managing market risk, what does that mean to somebody not in the industry? That's garbly good. Does somebody not in the industry understand making sure you can share in the gains while reducing your downside risk? There's even better ways to say that. What I would say is, hey, when the market goes up, you're going to get part of that market going up. But along with that, we're going to make sure that when the market goes down, you're not going to go down at all with an FIA. Which one is better? This one, or the one that I did? Okay, bad. Managing inflation risk. We manage inflation risk. No. Make sure you can afford to maintain your lifestyle. I like that one. Immediate. Long term. React to the market. Strategic. What? Guys, it's strategic. This is garbage. I would say that in his book that there are things that could be made better. React to the market. Strategic. React to the market. I get that means nothing to people. Also, strategic. Does that mean anything to anybody? No. Are there better things to say than strategic? Absolutely. Dream retirement, again, that's selling. Comfortable retirement. No. Does anybody really believe they're going to have a dream retirement? Yea or nay? No. But do they believe a comfortable retirement is possible? Yeah. Because a dream retirement means what? What would a dream retirement look like? Dream retirement means what? I've got $1 million coming in. I'm jet setting all over the place. I've got homes in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, California, upstate New York. That's dream retirement to me. So am I going to get that? No. But I do know I can have a comfortable retirement. Financial freedom means what? Financial security, I know what that means. All, a portion. See, all is what? Overpromising. Don't overpromise. People that can't believe all of anything. They can believe a portion of something. So which comes first? Which do we do first in the 21-point checklist? Good news or bad news? Good news. With a template, with a 21-point checklist, what do we always cover first? The good news or the bad news? We just talked about this about a half hour ago. That's right. We always talk about the good news first. The good news first. Remember? Hey, you got a power of attorney. That's awesome. Most people don't even have that. You're way ahead of the curve. Good. Oh, you've got a joint with rights to survivorship. That's a great way to title your account. Good. Oh, you have your kids equally as beneficiaries. Good. But then after we say they're good, then we go through the holes that they have with those particular things. So we always start with the good, and then we go to the bad. In seeking truth, you have to get both sides of the story. Do we cover both sides of the story with every one of those 10 points or 21-point checklists? Yes, the good and the bad. In the post-trust era, you first need to engage them. And to engage them means what? Shut up. Do not tell. Do not sell. Do not preach. Do not teach. Let them tell you. Let them sell you. Let them preach to you. Let them teach you these things. Ask open questions. That gets them engaged. And then gossing, aping them, agreeing, parroting, empowering them, keeps them engaged. Give them a reason to believe you are going to do something other than just argue your point of view blindly to sell your product. Do we do that? The first 40 minutes is about the non-financial. Also, even before we get to the 21-point checklist, in the first meeting, we set the tone. Setting the tone, we say what? Before their butt hits the seat, we say, would it be okay if I share with you what happens the next hour or so? What do people say? No, surprise me. No, they say, no, that's awesome. And by doing that, what's that tell them? It tells them that nothing's going to be forced on them. Nothing's going to surprise them. Nothing's going to happen without their permission. We're showing signs of courtesy. The funny thing is, have I just taken control of the meeting with an iron fist by saying, before their butt hits the seat, because if their butt hits the seat, they can start peppering with questions. As their butt is going from standing upright towards the seating position on the chair, I say, would it be okay if I share with you what happens in the next hour or so? Does that seem courteous to people? Yes. Does that let them know that nothing's going to happen without their permission? Yes. Does that let them know there's not going to be any surprises? Yes. So it all seems very courteous, but have I also taken control of the meeting with an iron fist in a velvet glove? Yes, because then I would say, well, I'm sure you've got a lot of questions. We're going to want to make sure those questions get answered, but do you think there's any one size that fits every single person? Are you and your neighbor the same? In fact, is anybody in your street the same, or are they all a little bit different? Even if you had the same income, could those incomes be coming from different places? So what's best for you is always going to be best for your neighbor, and what's best for your neighbor is always going to be best for you, or do you think the best solution is something that's been tailored to that person? Well, no, it's going to be the one tailored to the person. Exactly. So I want to get those questions answered that you have, but would it be okay if we kept them general until I knew more about you? No, that makes sense. Yeah, because if I start just flipping answers to you, could I be giving you bad information, not knowing everything about you? No, I understand. No, so who just told me they can't ask questions then? Who just told me they can't ask questions? Did I tell them they can't ask questions, or did I have them tell me why they can't ask questions? See, they told me. I've given them a reason to believe me other than just arguing my point of view. I just say, I can't answer that question. We'll get to that later. If I avoid their questions, I'm going to look like I'm a huckster. So I want to make sure they never ask questions to begin with, and I can't tell them that. They have to tell me. So there's all sorts of ways that we're using techniques. We use the 21-point checklist, again, doing the non-financial. So with common ground, I need to find out what I feel is important, what they feel is important. I need to find out what we share in thinking that it's important. We need that common ground. So when I'm talking about stories, do I ever talk about golfing? Have you ever heard me talk about using golfing as an analogy in a story? Have you ever heard me talk about golfing in an analogy for a story? Or baseball? Or football? I have used the Super Bowl, but you non-football fanatics watch the Super Bowl. Yes, they do. That's why I can use the Super Bowl. But do I ever use it? I use football analogies with you guys, but do I ever encourage you to use the football analogy with a client or a golf analogy? No, because not every single one of your clients knows football or golf. But has every one of your clients been to a doctor? Yeah, so I'll use doctor analogies. I'll use travel analogies. Every single one of your clients travel. I'll use very easy math, like the pie. If I divide a pie equally between 3 people, how much each person get? A third. So I use very easy math. I talk about people just like them, the cable story. So all of my analogies are on common ground, things that we all know about. I don't use things that I know about. That's why a lot of advisors will use golf as an analogy. Why? Because they golf. So they're doing an analogy that they're comfortable with. No. You have to do analogies. You have to use stories that the client is comfortable with. The goal of engagement is to, when you do not have dialogue to explain things, you'll use everything to show, to tell the story. I think this is what makes you believe that is impeccable. So if I just, and this is saying that for guys that don't know how to do open-ended questions, guys who don't know how to do motivation interviewing, guys that don't know how to do the 5Q system, they're going to talk. And what the client do? Nod, yep, nod. But by them nodding and saying yes to your questions, your close-ended questions, and you talking for 15 minutes and then saying, does that make sense? They say yes, but are they really engaged when that's happening? No, they're not. There's only one way I know they're engaged, and what's the only way I know they're engaged? Is if they are doing the talking, not me. When Maslow, I'll listen to high net worth people talk about their advisors. Here's what those people say. He's very attentive and very responsive to my statement. What is gossiping about, guys? What is empowering about? What is parroting about? What is agreeing about? Being very attentive and responsive to their statement. He understands me. What is aping about? He understands them. He's patient in answering my questions and listens. Do I ever tell preachers? No, I listen to their questions and I have them explain things back to me. See, these are what high net worth people say about their advisor. Do we teach you all these skills? Yes. If at all possible, anticipate and dissolve objections before they happen. Well, yes, we do that. That's exactly what the 21-point checklist script is about. So the book is telling you, anticipate and dissolve. And if you think about it, guys, should we know all the objections? Do I know that when it comes to annuities, the objections are going to be fees, rate of return, and liquidity? Yes, I know that. So why not create a script that overcomes them before they even bring it up? And overcoming the liquidity thing, you have 10% liquid each year. Is that overcoming that objection? What do people hear when you say, oh, but you always have access yearly to 10% of your annuity? What do people hear when you say that? And I sure in the hell hope you don't say that if you're part of 5Q. Because what do they hear? They hear 90% of my money's tied up. That's right. That's what they hear. So do we ever say 10% of your money is liquid? No. In the script, we walk through every year how much money they get, and then we walk through all sorts of scenarios where they might need that money, and they tell us, oh, I'll never need that or more than that. See, I overcome that objection before they even happen. So handling objections, agree and amplify their objection. Yes. See, this is what the book is telling us to do. We've been doing this for 25 years. This book is only 5 years old. Come up with the simplest answers. Be precise, not vague. Be precise, not vague. And are we always precise? We're always very precise. A memo must be clearly written because it's unclear. Are we clear on what we want the client to say? Have I given you the script on what I want the client to say before we move on to the next point in the 20-point checklist? Yes, I even given you, and we talked about this again a few weeks ago, have this in front of you. If the client doesn't say that, you can't move on until they say that. We're very clear. The clearer you are of what you want them to say, the easier it will be to get them there. So, guys, this book may cause extreme boredom, physical pain in the brain vicinity, crying hysterically, anger and hatred towards stupid guys. This book, post-trust era, it's going to cause all these things to you, but I highly, highly recommend that you read it and start to think, wow, what are all the ways that Mike and 5Q taught me to overcome these things? See, spend a lot of time on this task, or should I write a program automating it? So this is writing a code. They're just showing this as a cartoon. You can either work on the original task, write a code, and things become very easy, or this is the theory is going to happen. But instead, you're doing all this work, you're writing the code, you're rethinking, everything's debugging, then you keep going on and on and on. But the thing is, guys, I spent 20 years doing all this stuff. Those scripts that I've given you overcomes this stuff. You don't have to worry about creating a code on how to talk to your clients. You don't have to create a code on getting them to move all their money to you. You don't have to view every client as a new client and start over from scratch. For 20 plus years, 25 years, we've used scripts that have worked to get them to move all their money to you. We've done all this stuff for you. See, and the book does get one thing wrong. Any point, he says, any point worth making must be made by them, because he's all about telling. In the book, he's about telling, preaching, and teaching. That's the only thing he gets wrong, guys. The way you get 100% of people to move all their money to you is have them tell you why they don't want to, but need to move all their money to you. It must be said by them, not by you. So you've got some free time left. You've got some free time left before the end of summer. And I've talked about this before. If I brought a fireman in who knows nothing about sales, knows nothing about finances, and said, I'll pay you $200,000 if you learn the 20-point checklist script in the next 2 weeks, would he know it better or worse than you? Ask yourself that question. If Mike just grabbed a random average intelligence fireman and said, listen, I'm going to pay you $200,000 to learn this script in 2 weeks, would he at the end of 2 weeks know that script better than you? And I've asked that question over the last 20 years to many advisors, and guess what? They all admit he probably would know it better than me. Because during the next 2 weeks, what would that fireman do? His wife, he'd go home and say to his wife, hey, we can make $200,000 if in the next 2 weeks if I learn this script. Guess what his wife would say? Okay, we'll take vacation because we're gonna, and all you're gonna do is learn that script. Well, but I have my daughter's softball game to coach. You're not touching that. Turn it to the assistant coach. You're staying home. Yeah, but how about, we're watching the game of Thrones. No, we're not watching the Game of Thrones. The next 2 weeks, you are in your bedroom. You are in your office. You're in the basement doing what? Learning that script. Now, here's the thing, guys. How much money, if you got 100% of the people you ran into to move all their money to you, is $200,000 of income a lot of money or not very much money to you? If you could get 100% of the people you got in front of to move all their money to you, is $200,000 a good income or a paltry income in our business? Is that all good income or a paltry income? That's right, Tom. It's not very much, because you should be able to make $2 million a year. $2 million a year if you had everybody that you got in front of moved all their money to you. And the reason you couldn't make more is because you're only one person. There's only 40 hours in a week. You can't, the time limitation would be the thing that would prevent you from making more. But you could, at 40 hours a week, make $2 million a year if you knew the script. Because how much marketing would you be doing if you knew the script? A ton. So you've got 2 weeks left in summer, 3 weeks left in summer. Guess what you should do? Don't make any more client appointments. Don't make any more marketing, whatever. Don't do anything. Your next 2 weeks should be what? Learning the 21 checklist. So my whole point of showing you the post-trust era book is not that you should go read that book. It's that we've already knew what that book was going to say even before it was written 20 years ago. And the whole system is designed to prevent or to enhance all the things that the points he's making in that book. Please spend the rest of the summer learning those scripts, and you'll get everything that you want, okay? The more you practice, the better you get. The more you practice, the better you get. Make sense? Super. So thanks for letting me get on my soapbox here. But guys, the world is your oyster. It's up to you at this point. You guys have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody.